Our prelude this morning, voice still and small. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In dark and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing.
Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. We welcome you today, whatever the circumstances of your life, in the many ways we identify as people, and in the diversity of how we live and love. We are all included as we search for truth, build community, and strive to make the world a better place for all. The call to worship words are by Starhawk, community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throat. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing. A circle of friends. Someplace where we can be free. Our chalice represents the light of hope at the center of our faith tradition. The spark of this flame draws us into this time of worship and community. Please join me in reciting the unison chalice lighting words. May this flame be our light of friendship and love. Now let's sing hymn 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
My life flows on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
We'll observe a period of contemplation now. I invite you to relax and close your eyes if you like. I invite you to follow the steps of this guided meditation about awareness. As you're able, bring all of your awareness into your body. This might take real concentration, or it might be easy. Feel the weight of your body against each surface supporting you. Your feet, legs, seat, back, shoulder blades, arms, hands, perhaps your head if it's leaning back. Find out if you can sense your whole body and all its gravity at once. If you're hearing sound, bring your attention to your ears where the sound interacts with your body. If you're seeing light or images, bring your attention to your eyes, where the light enters them. If you haven't already, become aware of your breath, of the air actually entering your nostrils and then leaving, of the air slightly cooling your throat, of the lifting of your belly and chest, and then falling again. Be aware of the breath that is becoming part of your body. Now sense or imagine that you can feel the air that's all around your body. If air is moving across your skin, this is easy. If not, you probably can't feel the still air, but that's okay. Just know it's there. Now moving a bit away from your body, feel the sense of air filling the whole room you're in. Feel the part of it you can, and then become aware of all the air that you can't feel. You probably never think about this, but it's there. Think for just a moment about the insensible air all around you. Think about how you can only feel it when it's in some way disturbed. Disturbed air like a breeze can relax and refresh. Disturbed air like a wind can feel cold and harsh. Whatever is happening in the air, it is always there, whether you're aware of it or not. It's always there. We'll have silence now for a short while before some music, some chanting.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my fear will burn away. Burn away. I know my soul. I know its wings. I know this rose. I know my fear. I know my wings. I know my fear. I know my fear. I know my soul. I know my soul. I know its wings. I know this rose. I know my fear. I know this wings. I know my fear. I know my fear. I know my soul. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
Our brief reading this morning is from Sheldon Kopf, from a book called Blues Ain't Nothing But a Good Soul Feeling Bad. Once, several members of a Hasidic congregation had become helplessly lost in a dense forest. They were delighted when they unexpectedly came upon their rabbi, who was also wandering through the woods. They implored, "Master, we are lost. Please show us the way out of the forest." The rabbi replied, "I do not know the way out either, but I do know which paths lead nowhere. I will show you the paths that won't work, and then perhaps together we can discover the ones that do." Now, it's a rare sermon that starts with a disclaimer. In fact, I've never heard of one. But I'm going to break a bunch of preaching rules today, this being the first one. And I don't want you to be distracted by noticing the broken rules without knowing that it's intentional. These are strange times, and this is a strange sermon. My second disclaimer is that I'm aware that I'm preaching to a congregation of people who have done much long, hard work on racism and white supremacy before I ever came along 5 years ago, and even since I've been here. And I admit that I haven't participated directly in any of that. But it's not that I've never thought about or worked on these things. I remember a rude awakening during a religious ethics course in seminary with diverse students, taught by a Black woman with a PhD in theology. There, I hear that white liberals are a big part of the problem with racism. What? They tell me something like, white liberals feel complacent because they think the right things, but do very little to change anything. Check. And I remember first hearing the accusation that our Unitarian Universalist Association is steeped in white supremacism. What? But I listen and start to recognize the privileged and supremacist air that I've always breathed, that we've always breathed. And my third disclaimer is that I'm white identified, and that this sermon is intentionally directed at white people present this morning, because I'm not qualified to preach on this material to those among us who are racialized and marginalized. But I want you who are to know that I have you very much in mind today as I speak to your white friends and allies. I also, from the outset, ask your forgiveness for the mistakes that I will inevitably make. I'm talking today about making mistakes and using them to learn and understand better. I welcome your getting in touch with me later to let me know what mistakes I've made, because that's the best way for me to learn. Do that not as a service to me, but as a contribution to the grand, hot mess of a cause that dismantling racism is and will be for long years to come. It's clear that we white people have to rehearse over and over this recognition and understanding in order to chip away at the assumptions we've had the privilege to live under since we were born. We must do it ourselves, but it helps to be pointed in the directions many of us continue to ignore or simply be blind to. But breaking another major rule, I need to tell you about the development of this sermon. And this is the third time I'm offering it this spring and summer, but it's different each time, quite different, and especially today, to you, my own congregation. Guest ministers, like I often am, re-preach all the time, but usually don't say so out loud. There's another rule broken. So here's the timeline. The idea first comes to me on May the 9th, after listening to an episode of On Being with Krista Tippett about Pema Chodron's book of this title, When Things Fall Apart. I order it through Indigo and get it delivered to the trunk of my car in 3 days. I read some of it daily and finish around May 24th or so. At that time, my plan is to talk about meditative practices, self-examination, and compassionate self-confrontation, helping us understand what is happening within us as things fall apart, and how to grow in understanding, acceptance, and strength from that. Sermon-wise, at that time, I'm seeing the pandemic as a hardship that feels close to home, to be handled individually, even if we are in this together. As the powers that be do the communal work, that's the plan. And then on May 25th, things really fall apart when George Floyd is murdered. Most of us know a lot about that now, but my usual news sources are CBC Radio and the Globe and Mail. So at the time, I only know what's going on through descriptions in words. And then on Monday, June 8th, I happen upon Trevor Noah speaking truthfully, passionately, angrily, yet still satirically about police brutality. And he shows lots of clips, most of which I haven't seen. Again, I don't need to tell you what seeing these feels like, but it's entirely different from reading words. That's when my plan for the first version of this presentation on things falling apart falls apart. It's a whack in the head reminder that there's more suffering in the world than what comes from the pandemic. It awakens me to realize that my plan for the sermon is a white plan, a colonizer plan, based on reason, words, and texts. Let's understand this, let's analyze, let's strengthen ourselves to deal with this crisis. That's what we'll do. And I only hope that everyone else does the same thing because it's the best way. That's white supremacy and privilege in action. And then it's, oh, right. There are other experiences of the world out there, other ways to see them. And sometimes I comfort myself because I have experienced the other side of supremacy and privilege as well. Having grown up gay in the 50s and come out in the 70s, I'm a survivor too, gosh darn it. I've helped break down barriers. I've marched in the streets. Now, I'm not saying that the oppression of a white gay middle-class male is the equivalent of any other kind, just that it is oppression. It doesn't, though, absolve me from doing other work that each of us needs to do. And my direct and frustrating experience is that a lot of gay white people don't recognize our own stories of oppression within the experiences of people of color. Thank goodness we have wise, thoughtful, and deeply experienced Unitarian Universalist ministers across Canada. When we get together nationally or locally, we talk together about what we can do personally and collectively to dismantle racism, white supremacy, and privilege. Because of conversations like those, I have the benefit of being able to see when I'm thinking, talking, viewing, living from that restricted, blinded perspective. I just have to remember to see it. I have to remember to feel the air. And there's the rub. We can study, read, and discuss for hours on end, but we have to live the changes personally in the moment to moment of our lives. And the most crucial thing is to catch ourselves in action. We need to be ready to make a change at the moment, even if the change is simply to stop. Stop talking Stop analyzing, stop dissociating ourselves, and to simply be in that moment, living in the discomfort of the self-realization, and especially the discomfort of, growing edge conversations with those who've had life experiences other than ours. Other times, the most crucial thing is to see ourselves not taking action, to recognize the suppressed impulse, the fearful silence, the mute shame, the indecision which dissolves any decision. Now, this is definitely a Pema Chodron teaching, that to stop and be in the moment rather than flee from the moment is key. The Buddhist goal, as I understand it, is not to make changes directly. Rather, the goal is awareness of oneself and of reality, and that leads to change. But few of us are Buddhist, some, but not all, not many. Some of us rush to make changes outside of ourselves, forgetting what we need to do about inside ourselves. A tiny example with another admission of privilege. I have a house cleaner, even for my 2-bedroom apartment. She is originally from Essex County, a several generation Black Canadian. I'm not sharing her name here. Our next cleaning day is shortly after I've been reminded of my racism and white supremacy. Before she arrives, I'm thinking about what to do. I can either keep things casual as usual, or I can say something in the hope of showing my support, while having no idea whether that will help or backfire. I decide to tell her how deeply upset I am about what's happening to people of color. She tears up as I do. She thanks me for saying something and then tells me this. Her mother in the 60s is an activist working to desegregate the schools, and her sister is the first Black student to go to an integrated school in Essex County in 1965. And my cleaner is standing right there in my apartment and we're talking. I'm not some number of degrees of separation, maybe hundreds of miles from the issue. A truth teller of the injustice is inside my apartment speaking to me. The injustice is all around us here and now. We know that some people right here in this congregation testify to the injustice as well. So I tell my cleaner that I'm determined to face my own white supremacy and privilege, and ask her always to let me know if I've done or said something hurtful, that I need and want her to tell me so that I can apologize and learn. She thanks me for that too. Okay, am I patting myself on the back about this? I hope not. I hope I'm simply saying that we can make a tiny change in the moment as we live each day. Or worse, am I putting the onus on her to educate me? Again, I hope not. I need to do my own work. I'm talking so much about myself here, breaking all these preaching rules, and why am I letting myself get away with this? My intention is to give personal voice to the awareness of supremacy and privilege, which might help reduce supremacy and privilege. Maybe only for me, maybe not even for me, maybe I'm fooling myself. But my hope is that it helps others. Maybe some of you who are watching. I'm quite uncertain whether this pandemic might bring about positive social change. But just possibly, the frustration and anger about the pandemic is fueling some of the widespread resistance that we've been seeing recently around the world. Maybe being fed up about one thing is making people fed up about everything. Maybe that's a good side effect of COVID-19. Now, finally, we come back to Pema Chodron, who teaches us to observe keenly what is inside us, especially our strongest attachments, many of which are painful or negative. She counsels us not to take our gaze off of them, to feel the discomfort, the shame, the guilt, the anger, not to turn away, to gaze deeply while we're being honest with ourselves about the ugly parts inside. Also be honest about our beauty and our goodness. All of these as a whole make each of us who we are. This way, a long, hard, rocky way, lies freedom. For me, for you, for us all. Let's make that so. And let's express our hope and determination by singing a beloved hymn, We'll Build a Land.
121, We'll Build a Land. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land, building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Come, build a land, my people we seek. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
It will be rough work to build that land, and it will require many uncomfortable realizations. These words of Pema Chodron may help. Anyone who has used the painful moments and days and years of their lives to become wiser, kinder, and more at home in the world has learned from what has happened right now. We can aspire to be kind right in the moment, to relax and open our heart and mind to what is right in front of us at the moment. Now is the time. If there's any possibility for enlightenment, it's right now, not at some future time. Now is the time.